What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Childish. We're back at it again with that next episode of Educate and Dominate, that one-on-one interview series where we take some of the top names of the game and get their insight so we can take your game to the next level. My next guest is one of the founders of Aftermath, a top 10 guild on the Asian server, TheHumanDynamo. What's going on, my man?
How you doing, Giles? It's great to be. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, no problem, sir. I appreciate you taking the time to come out and give us some of that insight. We've heard a lot about the Aftermath Asia side from Goon, so I'm super excited to have you on board. Thank you again.
No, the pleasure's mine, man. Honestly, huge fan of the videos. I think what you're doing is fantastic because it's really pushing people into the next levels of the game, and I mean, that's a big thing in a community-based game like this.
Definitely, definitely. So before we get into that, let's go ahead and touch a little bit based on yourself. You know, everyone knows now from the previous videos, they know about you and what you've kind of gotten started out with the guild, but they don't know your history. So why don't we give a little insight on that, when you got started in the game and how you got your way into Summoner's War?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll be upfront. I'm old. I'm in my 30s. I started way
33,
back in the
baby.
day. Yeah, I mean,
Woo!
I'm right there with you. So I started way back in the day with Atari, playing the games like Moonwalker and Asteroid and all that stuff, and just sort of progressed as I grew up into Nintendo and then eventually computer gaming. I'd say I really took into video games when I started playing Dark Age of Camelot, which was one of the first like
Nice.
multi realm MMOs. I played beta in their beta all the way up to a couple years ago, and that's where my love for theory crafting sort of got into it because that game is completely skill and item based. So trying different item builds and stuff like that is where the theory crafting began, and then moved on into League of Legends, and then Summoners War last year. I would say a little over a year ago I started playing, and it was just one of those random games where I saw it in the App Store and was looking for something to kill time with, and downloaded it and got really hooked, much more than I'd care to admit, honestly.
Right.
Um, and that's it's kind of been history ever since.
Good deal. And so moving on into Summoner's War and finding the guild called Aftermath, how did that all come about?
A long time ago, I was looking at Reddit. Was not in a guild at the time, and I saw a post by Jim Hartme, who was one of the original badasses of the game.
Yeah, the original Rum Shaker, my man.
Yeah, man, he was a trendsetter. I saw a post by him about Rebels of Yazi and what they were looking to recruit as far as the arena ranking, which is what they based everything off of at the time. And I knew that I wasn't at that level, but I also knew that if anyone could help me bump up into that level, it would be those guys. So I started talking with him, and I started talking to Cold Steel on line chat, and they were gracious enough to to let me join their chat just to soak up some knowledge. And Aftermath sort of became the little brother guild to Rebels of Yazi and SNZ, which were the two guilds in the Alliance at the time. We were all the guys that were hanging out, just kind of like the little kids looking up to those guys, trying to figure out how we can get to where they are. And we ended up forming a guild. It was me and Pug West and one of the current Aftermath Asia guild masters, Bryant84. We formed the guild and just started grabbing all the people that were in the chat that weren't quite ready to join Yazi. And then eventually Rebels of Yazi and SNZ disbanded and formed Zypher, and some of the members came to Aftermath, and a couple of the members went to Flower Power back then. So new guilds were born of them splitting up.
That's crazy because I remember like it was yesterday the goat of Yazi, and I was kind of wondering what all went down because they had some really top players in there. So that's good to hear that you know.
Yeah, I mean, what basically ended up happening was Abyss, who was another one of the original like crazy high tier players. He decided that he didn't want to support ComDOS because it was a lot of the hacking was still rampant back then, and he was getting really frustrated.
Sure.
So he took off. Cold Steel and a lot of the guys that were in SNZ, which was more of a Chinese based guild at the time, They all decided that they weren't so much on board with the not hitting members of the alliance on resets, because it really was limiting how many people they could attack. Because it basically was Yazi and SNZ in the top all the time. So they were kind of frustrated that they couldn't hit all the people that were up there because it was points for them. So they decided to take off and form Cypher, and Jim stopped playing for personal reasons.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's understandable. So, kind of going back to the Guild of Aftermath, there's a thing that kind of gets thrown around with regards to guilds. People think that it's all about the certain particular units or whatnot and certain particular units, but with regards to your atmosphere and the way you have your guild set up, communication is one of the vital things that you really talk about with regards to being a top thing in your group. So can you kind of discuss that with regards to how your guild is set up versus maybe others that don't utilize communication, how you go about that?
Absolutely. Um, I mean, it's crazy to me, having been here from the start, to see how successful Aftermath has been on both servers. Pugwest and Goon are doing crazy things on the global side, and then Asia side, we have really made an effort to keep it a non-elitist environment. Which I mean, I don't know necessarily how other guilds run their guilds, but I know the perception a lot of players have of Cypher and Licious, and they see them as these elite players, which they are because they're always in the top.
Right.
We may not have as many players that are top 100 in arena or this and that, but we're hanging in there with them in Guild Wars, and the foundation of that is the atmosphere that we have for the guild. It's all based on mutual respect and growing together, almost like a family, where we have 5-6 different line chats for the guild, where one section may be just help for this, one section is just based on Guild Wars, one section is help for if you're stuck in COA, post here so that you can get help here, so that it really gets people to where they need to be, as far as like, hey, I've got a question about this, let me ask it in this chat so that I can get an immediate answer from the people that are in the know. And if you ever want to see crazy stuff, I mean, we'll have hour-long discussions in theory crafting where you look at the chat and it looks like a math lesson, because we have
Nice.
guys that they love number crunching and they love running string theorems and stuff like that. So we'll start talking about units, and next thing you know, they've got 15 different number sets for you based on potential runes and this and that, to really push the pace as far as the theory crafting goes. And then I would say that communication is our number one strength in Guild Wars. During Guild Wars, we are constantly in communication, especially, we call it rush hour. That last sort of hour, or last 5 hours before the Guild War reset, where every guild is just super high competitive, always trying to hit as many people as they can to get those last minute points. During those rush hour fights, our line chat is at breakneck speed, where people are, we don't have anybody in the guild hitting a specific target without talking about, like, hey, I'm going to hit this guy, he's got these units, here's what I got, what do you guys think? Just to sort of maximize our effectiveness in Guild Wars, and that's one of the things that's really kept us at the top of the leaderboards there.
Good deal. And the funny thing is that we kind of utilize something similar to that, where throughout the week, we with regards to the people that we fight, especially the group that we have a 10v10 guild on the global side, and
Okay.
we see the top 10 quite a bit. They're more common teams that we see quite a bit. So we'll generally, when we fight a particular person, we'll actually put down the person that we fight, their setup, and then things that we notice that are a little bit unique or whatnot. We can, judging by our speed and our units or whatnot, we can tell if they're utilizing a unit that is a little bit speedier than most, or if they have a revenge hit on somebody that doesn't use it. All those little bits of knowledge is so vital to your success as a
Absolutely.
group. And if you're not putting that out there, like the Guild of Aftermath is, you definitely are losing out. So definitely a great tip, guys. If you didn't pick up on that, write that down, because that's something that is extremely important.
And I don't know how you guys are doing on a global, but I know during those last 5 fights or so, the last few hours, especially the closer you get to reset, a lot of the guilds on Asia will actually change their defenses as people are hitting them. So, say we notice that a guild is attacking us, and we're noticing a couple random people getting losses on their defenses. We'll say, hey, switch these around. And so mid fights, we'll actually have people switching up defenses, and a lot of the guilds are doing that now, just to keep things from getting static. Where like, say we hit a random guild and we're just crushing one guy's defense, all of a sudden we hit him again and it's not the same units. So it's the communication level there is it's one of the most important things.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I was gonna touch on a comment that you made just a second ago. A lot of people they make these guilds and whatnot, and they get two invites every day. 12 invites a week or whatnot. And
Hmm.
for most guilds out there, 99% of the guilds out there, they're sitting there using them as they come, the invites as they come. Whereas people like yourself, I would assume that Aftermath is going to be holding on to a few invites to utilize it in the final hours. Can you tell us a little bit about that as far as overall strategy and how that could be beneficial to somebody that's in the top ranks?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that we started doing right when Guild Wars first came out is, we were trying to test out what would be most effective just based on our members where they're located, because we're an international guild, especially on Asia. I mean, we have people from Europe, we've got people from North America, we've got people from Singapore, Thailand, China, all over. So the time zones don't always necessarily sync up. So when we were first playtesting, it was sort of like, all right, cool, let's use these swords as fast as we can, and we were just banging them out. And we noticed that as we got on later in the week, we were sort of dying off. We weren't able to keep up as much because all these other guilds still had so many abilities to attack left that we were sort of fading into the background. So what we started doing was coming up with a Guild Wars schedule, and we'll actually post it week to week and have members sign up on a spreadsheet to say, hey, these are the times I'm available. I can be in here, I can be in here. And there's notes like, hey, I may be out to dinner right now, but if you need me to use some stuff later, I'll be available then. So that, I mean, again, it goes back to that communication, just to maximize the number of strong attackers that we can have available at any moment. And we found, for us at least, that not burning all of our swords, our ability to attack other guilds early in the week works best. We may do only 1 to 2 fights to start the week off, 1 to 2 fights a day early in the week, just so at the end of the week, if we see that we're, number 17, we still have 5-6 slots left to attack to really get that last minute push, similar to how a lot of people do it with Arena, where that last hour is really the make or break to, to get that last rank.
Good deal. Yeah, it's crazy when it comes to those last few days. I've seen. I mean, on the 10v10 side on global, I've seen us go from like top 3 to top 22 within minutes. So
Yep.
these guys are fighting it. They don't play around. They don't play
And I mean,
around.
another thing that it took us a little while to catch on to, that I don't know that a lot of people have really realized it yet, is if you look, you can see who's attacking who at that moment. Like, if you're getting hit, you can kind of see who's attacking you based on your current wins and losses in defense. The timing for declaring a victory is huge. If say your guild starts an attack on somebody and another guild starts an attack 15 minutes later, if you can declare before the other guild does, you get more points.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely, because if you, like, let's say you attack a guild and they're currently number 2, and another guild hits them as well. If you beat the number 2 guild, you get more points than, say, beating the number 9 guild if the other guild declares before you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. While you're kind of going through this, is this something that I can pull up on my main account and show people, or?
Yeah, you'd have to be in it during a guild battle. I mean, basically what you're doing is, let's say you've already used your swords in that battle, but you have guildmates that have swords left, and you guys haven't declared.
Okay.
Let's say there may be like 45% remaining.
Sure.
You still have a bunch of swords to burn. If you look at your defenses, as a guild, like, say say you guys just got hit and it shows that like, a guild is now attacking you. If that guild is actually able to declare a victory before you guys finish yours, they could win potentially more or less points depending on your guild's ranking at the time. So we've got members in chat, whether they're in that current fight or not, kind of monitoring that, saying, all right, guys, like let's say we're fighting Zypher. We're hitting them. All of a sudden, Licious is hitting Zypher as well. Well, if we declare before Licious, we get more points based on the fact that they're a higher ranked guild at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So I got it pulled up right now. Like right now, I've
Sure.
already done my swords or whatnot, and I apologize for having you kind of go over this again. I want some
Yeah.
people that are chiming in, they kind of want to see what you're talking about. So
Sure. All right. So right now, you guys are at 16.3%.
right,
If you go to, I think it's the guild battle log.
there we go.
Okay, perfect. So if you look at battle record, all right, you guys are fighting them. If you go to the defense, it'll show you guys being hit. Like, all right, so you guys are getting hit now. Like, let's say this is that last rush hour on Asia where everyone's super active.
Right.
It might say 4 minutes ago you guys were getting hit by this guild and another guild at the same time. So you're getting hit by both people.
Gotcha.
Whichever one of those two guilds is able to declare first and get you at a higher ranking for that win is going to get more points.
Wow.
So really monitoring your timing and like how many guilds are hitting this guild versus another is one of the things that we've really gotten down to a science to maximize our points.
That's crazy. Just when you think you've known it all, you learn something new every day. Thank you so much for showing that. That is crazy.
Absolutely.
Crazy. All right, let me go ahead and pull up.
And I mean, expanding upon that communication and how crazy it is for us. I mean, like I said, we have people monitoring stuff like that, and we'll be close to a victory, and we may only have like 3 or 4 swords left to really get that last minute edge, and we have guys. I have to give complete credit to all of our members. Everybody in the guild is amazing. We have guys that have gone so far as to, spend 4 or 5 million mana redoing runes, removing runes, adding them onto different units so that we can really pull out those last minute clutch victories to get top spots.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's and it's funny. I mean, I wish it's something that we all can do. It definitely cannot. But that's when you're trying to be the best of the best, you gotta be willing.
Yeah.
to
And especially, I mean, competing with these guilds that are really forcing us to step up our games and think on our feet. It's, full credit to guilds like Zypher and Licious, and we call them Candy House. It's another Asian guild with like a Taj Mahal sort of looking picture. Those guys are all crazy tough to fight. Every time we fight them, it's always close, and they're really forcing us to adapt and change constantly. So. Big shout out to them for the level of competition on the Asia server.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So before we kind of get into your actual Guild Wars setup, I kind of wanted to showcase some of the units that I thought were kind of unique to the setup. And people will look at it, initially and be like, "Oh, what is this guy doing, bro? This can't be right. This is not optimal." When in all reality, for the situation that you might be utilizing it in, it might be just the right thing to get the job done. So I kind of want to discuss Jameer first, the Wind Dragon, rocking the Despair Wheel. It looks like you're going with speed. Hit point to hit point. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that is kind of helps out with your success?
Absolutely. Jameer is one of those guys. You want him fast. You want him tanky. I've tried him with damage builds. His third skill or his second skill, scaling off opponent's HP, looks like it could do a lot on paper. Outside of dungeons, it's garbage. It doesn't matter if you have him with 200 crit damage. It's not going to do as much as you want it to. So, Despair, I know everyone runs him on either Swift or Violent. I love him on Despair for 2 reasons. In Arena, he's that sleeper. Most people see him, they're like, oh, he's just there to reset, and then next thing you know, his second skill hits 3 different units. They're all stunned, and you've won that fight because he managed to get that clutch lockdown. The other thing is specific to Guild Wars. Running him, I'll run him on offense every now and then, and I'll sometimes throw him in on defense just because he is such a good speed leader. Despair is the most underrated rune set in Guild Wars, hands down. It's amazing. I know everyone, especially at the higher end game, is running Violent, and Violent, don't get me wrong, is still crazy and There are times when you'll love it. There are times it'll make you want to rip your hair out and quit the game. But despair is that one that no one really thinks about. And with Guild Wars being as limited as it is in units, especially when you're hitting somebody and they have a despair unit on their defense, that right there can cost you some of your best attackers, because you're not counting for that stun. You're not expecting to all of a sudden, get a Chloe or like a Perna locked down for a turn and then just eaten. So despair in Guild Wars is huge, and I like catching people off guard with him, especially with that despair build.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I've had my Jameer. He was my first Snap 5, and initially I think I had him swept, but then put him on violent, and I actually did like a hybrid. I think I did like HP attack or attack HP, and it was getting the job done. But it's funny because I've been able to get a couple other units, and it's allowed me to take advantage of some of their skill sets with regards to arena or guild wars. And I haven't found too much use for Jameer, but talking about utilize them for a despair, and, a skill a despair rune, right? A skill that allows you to stun without need to be focusing on accuracy. I think it definitely can play a vital role now that I think about that, and I'm kind of glad you brought that up because it's so much stunning. Again, it's just so much value. When you're so limited to units and trying to find units that provide all the tips or all the tools you need. It's pretty darn cool. That is awesome.
Plus, I mean, every now and then, and it's rare because I'll be honest. I mean, Lucian's, everyone knows how crazy double Lucian comps are in Arena, but being able to run almost a double Lucian comp in a Guild War with Jameer, he turns one Lucian into two, and
right.
turning him into not just that ability to make a second Lucian, but to stun units while Lucian's chewing through them. It's crazy powerful to do it.
Gotcha. And have you? I don't know if you or if any of your other guild members have you guys ended up kind of combining, the Jameer kind of despair setup with like a despair Lucian, just in case the stuns don't land, or
I did it for a long time. I didn't pull my Cyrus until a few weeks ago. I'd say maybe 3 weeks ago. And if you look at my Cyrus, he's a complete tank Cyrus because that's what I run him in an arena. But in Guild Wars, what I was doing was I had my Lucian that's max skilled. I had him on despair for a long, long time. So I was doing just that. I was running Lucian on despair just to catch any units that hadn't been stunned. And for anyone out there that does have a Lucian that you don't have the rage runes or you don't have the fatal runes that are quite up to par, despair on Lucian is an amazing set because of the fact that he has 2 AoE attacks, and despair with his second skill, you can get a stun and a debuff off, and it can be a game changer. So don't discount that at all. It's worth investing into if you have some runes that may be lying around. You want to build them crit damage attack still, but you can still use them as a stun bot and a debuffer, and it's really effective.
Yep, definitely. And then kind of going back to Cyrus here, one of the things that I didn't mention before, a lot of people when they first get it, like, oh, I can't wait to see how much damage I can do, when in all reality there's many ways to set up, and you kind of have a unique setup that you see a couple people here and there do it, but not too much. So can you talk about the value of going the tankier version of Cyrus versus a DPS based Cyrus, and how that can help somebody, but maybe they're new to the game, just got the unit? Should they go with attack, or should they play around with this for beginning stages of the game, and maybe
Sure,
mid to late stages?
Absolutely. Cyrus is one of those units that there are a ton of different ways to be effective with him, and it's one of those things where when you first look at him on paper, you're like, oh wow, he has this huge damage boost leader skill. I need to build him as an attack monster, and he can be really effective with the right team around him. I personally find, at least on the Asia server with Arena, damaged Cyroses are not a threat. As crazy as that sounds, and I mean, you've got people like trolling with 2 of them where they can get away with it because they have the ability to do both. But 9 times out of 10 in Arena, if you see a damaged Cyrus, it's getting one shot by something.
Yep, for sure.
And I personally can't justify taking such an amazing unit and just throwing him away like that. I mean, it's a waste to me. to have a unit that may not even get a turn because he's just getting crushed. Because that's the thing. People see a Zyros, their immediate mindset is, I have to kill that. Because they know that it can change a fight. So if you have units where, let's say you have a super fast Chloe, or you have the ability to protect that Zyros until it does get to just wreck shop, yeah, going full damage on it can be useful. But I find it to be a lot more beneficial for him to be able to soak up some damage and then reset some skills or drop a bunch of dots and stun people with a despair build, so that yeah, you see that you see that Zyros and you're like, I've got to kill it. Oh shit, he's got almost 30,000 hit points and 900 defense. Why is he not dying immediately?
Right.
So I also use it as that sort of mind trick where you try and eat through him and then he just takes a beating and comes back and kills you.
Good deal. And speaking about different types of setups or whatnot with regards to the Lucians or whatnot, a lot of the people, when they're making these double Lucian comps, are generally using Seek to go ahead and kind of clean up the mess as far as providing, DPS from his buffs, but then his buffs for Lucian, but then the DPS just to kind of clear the units out after we're done. You kind of have a different approach when it comes to utilizing a unit that's very similar to that. A lot of people get Aquila and they're like, oh, I got to go from Seek to Aquila and set them up. Your setup is quite unique comparison to most. A lot of people try to go the speed, hit point kind of a route, or
Mm-hmm.
speed, hit point, accuracy kind of route. You actually have him set up for damage, to kind of provide, I guess, both speed and hand damage. Can you kind of talk about your setup and how you use it in your situation?
Sure. Aquila to me is another one of those sleeper units. The Brownies are hugely underrated, or at least were until Barry and Goon started talking about them, and I feel like they're going to see a huge surge in popularity soon. They're amazing units, especially with violent runes. Aquila, with her being fast enough to buff before my Lucians, that right there pumps up damage. I have mine with speed, crit damage, attack. Um, he's decently fast. He's nothing, he's not shattered any records, but I run my devolutions with a Chloe leader most times just because I find that to be a little bit more safe and effective. And I mean, on Asia server, people have Chloes that are 260, 270, 280 speed. Aquila being able to strip everyone of that shield before the Lucians go is huge. Just when you think your team's safe, Aquila comes along and kind of takes a giant dump on them, kind of freeing up everything to die. And violent. The reason I went damage on mine is, you get that first skill where it has a 30% chance to proc another turn already. Then you add in the violent runes for another 22% chance. A lot of times you'll get 2, 3, 4 turns with him before he's finished kind of creating chaos. With that, with his buff and then getting an attack off and then maybe proccing his first skills, he can pump out a lot of DPS in a short time just because of how many turns he's actually taking.
Sure.
So, I mean, I know a lot of the people want to go HP, and his damage is not anything mind-blowing. It's a few thousand at a time. But when you combine that with the fact that he may take 3, 4, 5, 6 turns, depending on the numbers, it adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny. I've had Corona for quite some time and been utilizing it in my arena offense, and I've had some fights where I basically won where I had a lucky defense break on one of their Bellas or whatever on the defense, and I just 5, 6 turn, boom, 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 just keep on hitting them
Absolutely.
and get them done. So cool.
And that's the thing that the people weren't realizing for a long time with the Brownies. That first skill allowing them to take multiple turns and then you combine it with the violent, it's nuts. And I'm going to nerd out for a second with math.
Go ahead, do it. I want math.
This is one of the weird things with the AI with the game, all right? They keep changing violent where it's 22% and then it keeps diminishing as it goes down. If you watch, it'll tell you when you get a violent proc, and then when the brownie first turn resets, it's a different thing and it resets the percentage for violent chances, which is something a lot of people don't know. So let's say you have a violent turn, and it goes from 22 down to, I think, 17% for the next chance to get a violent proc. If the Brownies' first skill kicks in and she gets that 30%, it then resets the next chance for violent back to 22. So your ability to take multiple turns has actually just gone up even further numerically.
Very cool.
And that's a lot of the units can do that. I mean, things like Annabelle or any of the occult girls where they get an extra turn if they put somebody to sleep. Anything like that where it has an ability to generate an extra turn outside of the violent set's ability will reset that number. So that's another random nerd moment for the people out there that want to abuse numbers.
Right. So something like Rakan with a second skill with the self buff getting the additional turn, that should probably reset.
Absolutely, it does.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then how about this is not I don't think this is like a true reset, but for people that are taking advantage of Jasoon and really timing their units to the point where every time she's fallen blossoming, she's hitting up a unit that is basically right at the full attack age or whatnot. While she might
Yep.
not be the one in there, that's still kind of more or less the same thing, right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. As soon as her attack bar, I mean, there are times when you'll take almost back-to-back turns with her based on that fallen blossom, and it'll absolutely reset that so that you're able to generate more turns. And that's one of the things with this game that you need to take advantage of because you hear everybody talk about speed is king in the arena. The ability to take multiple turns will win you fights, hands down. So abusing that system where Aquila is taking 6 turns in a row, which shouldn't happen based on these numbers, that's one of those game changers where you'll win fights that otherwise you might not have.
Gotcha. Sweet. Since we're kind of getting into some of these units and how you utilize them in Guild Wars, I'm going to go ahead and flip over to your setup here for your
Absolutely.
Guild Wars team. If you want to go ahead and kind of touch base on this and tell people how you go about setting up your team.
Sure. I mean, touching base upon we touched upon how my Cyrus is a tank unit. Guild Wars, especially, you look at that first Guild Wars and you think, okay, he's got a speed leader with some CC. He's got a Chloe that's probably decently fast, and then he's relying on Cyrus to kill things.
Gotcha.
It's sort of a trick play because if you look at the rune setup, Tyrone is damage based. He's speed, crit damage, attack. So everyone's focused on killing that Zyros while Tyrone is sitting there eating up units. He's on despair, but he's still fast. He's got almost 190 speed, I think. And you're end up focusing the wrong unit, so that first fight's going to put you on tilt a little bit, where you lost a fight you thought you had won, and that's we do a lot of that, the psychology based playing in the Guild Wars side. So losing those first fights that you thought you had in the bag really kind of sets people on tilt and causes them to play differently than they would have thought,
Yep.
especially when they're losing some of their best attackers.
Yep. Definitely.
The second defense is one that you'll see pretty standard, especially pre Veramos changes. It's an HP based thing, Veramos and Chasoon kind of keeping Darien alive while Darien protects them at the same time. It's just a really safe team to run, and I use it a lot, especially on the weekends when the reset's happening, because I really want those fights to have to drag out as long as possible so that people aren't hitting us multiple times.
Gotcha. And do you feel now with the changes on Veramos, post change, do you feel that it's still as viable as it was, or can it still be utilized as well as it was?
It can still be utilized. I honestly had to change my rune setup a little bit. After the changes, Veramos really, really needs to have speed built in. I mean, even to the point of sacrificing a little bit of the hit point total, you want to have 180 more speed with base stats plus runes, if nothing else. I mean, that's not taking into account any leader skills or any totem bonuses or anything, because he's not healing as much. But if you can get him to take more turns, he still can act as a cleansing unit for your team, which is huge in Guild Wars and Arena. So
Yeah.
really getting him to pump out turns is the key.
Good deal. And let's go ahead and hit up kind of a sticking on Veramos here with some of our beginner people that are starting to get this particular unit, we always go about, talking about Veramos and which set is better, Violent and Swift and whatnot. Do you have any recommendations for people as far as an actual amount of speed to kind of shoot for, if they can get it for Violent, and if not, go to Swift, or vice versa, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on which stage of the game you're in. If you're not able to auto through dragons and giants, I would say definitely go with a swift build. Simply because you're gonna get those runes sooner. You're gonna be able to get better runes sooner.
Right.
The thing a lot of people get caught up in is violence so good I have to have them on violent, whether
Exactly.
it's Veramos or any other unit, and they're actually taken away from their stats and their ability to do well because of that mindset. My thing is this: if you have decent Swift runes and bad Violent runes, use Swift. If you have mediocre Swift, mediocre Violent, and you can have similar stats, go Violent. That's fine. For end game in Arena, Guild Wars, whatever, if you're going to run on Violent, you want a minimum of 170, 180 speed. I mean, like, honestly, mine is sort of bottom of the barrel. If you look at the runes, there are some runes that don't have speed substats. If and when I farm a 4-slot and a 6-slot HP that have them, those are getting replaced immediately because the speed is so important. I mean, you'll see crazy ones on Asia that are violent that have like 210, 215, 220 speed, and you're like, holy shit,
Right.
how is he going so fast? He just went. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you really need to take a look at the stats. You need to look at your Swift. If you're looking at 200 speed and 22,000 hit points on Swift versus 150 speed and 21,000 on Violent, stay with the Swift until you can get better runes.
Good deal.
Don't get caught up in that it has to be Violent mindset, because Violent is amazing and it's probably the best. It's easily the best rune set. But if you don't have the substats and you don't have the ability to generate the numbers, it's not going to help you.
Good deal. Yeah, thank you for that insight. That's it's so funny because it's one of those questions that get time and time and again, and you would think people would have gotten an understanding of it, but even though they'll listen to it, it's not coming at it. So I appreciate you taking the time to explain that.
Absolutely. I mean, I do it myself still. Like, when I get a new unit, or if I'm trying to redo runes on like the free rune removal day, I'm like, oh, I gotta have this, and then I look at the numbers, and I'm like, nah, don't do that. You're dumb. Stop being stupid.
Gotcha. And looking at this next topic here, another one of the things that you and your guild does a lot with regards to theory crafting is talking about some of the units that are vital for the completion of Toa Hard. As I've kind of come to understand, where we're at in this stage of the game, mid-July 2015, a lot of people that have been playing the game for quite some time have been able to clear Trial of Ascension Normal, and congrats to everybody listening that has done that. But now they're getting to the point where they're getting up to stage, that 40, stage 50, and stage 50 kind of is a big dramatic change. They can't, just get it done with the units that they use to clear TOA, and so they're kind of thinking of new and innovative ways of getting past that hump so that they can clear both sides of the table. You said you had a couple of units that you've been testing along with your guild that you kind of wanted to talk about here. Is there any particular units you want to look at?
Yeah, in a lot of these, it's going to depend on what your ability to pull is. I mean, like, if I talk about one of the units that a lot of people have been having a lot of success with and finding it really kind of key is the Water Mammoth, the Battle Mammoth. When you awaken him, I think his name is Talc.
Yep.
So his ability to taunt units and his ability to buff defense and heal at the same time, I mean, it's really a huge bang for your buck on that. One of the units that a lot of people have been pulling out, though, that from the monthly Light and Dark, is the Dark Mammoth. And it's sort of like having the Dark Grim Reaper versus the Water Grim Reaper. If you have the Dark, you don't really need the Water. If you have the Water and not the Dark, you use what you have. The Dark Mammoth has the same thing, where his first skill, he's got a huge chance to provoke. His second skill is the heal with the defense boost, and then he also has a damage, an AOE damage based on his defense, which it can light up some pretty huge numbers depending on your rune builds. I mean, you'll see videos on YouTube where he's hitting multiple units for 40, 50,000 damage, which is nuts.
Right.
The key for those in TOA Hard is the defense boost with the healing and the provoke, which you really, the key to TOA hard for any unit really that you're going to use is accuracy. And it's one of the numbers we've really been spending a lot of time crunching, and it's almost like Arena where you have to have that max accuracy, 85, 100%, depending on what you believe in. The ability to provoke units in TOA hard is one of the most important things, because it's limiting which of your units are taking a beating. And a unit like this, where you're ruining him primarily with defense and hit points, he'll be able to soak up a lot of damage, especially boss fights. Levels like TOA hard 50, where you've got Veramos and all the Taoists and Pernas. If they're all focusing on beating up a tank unit, your other units that might not be able to absorb as much are really getting free passes every turn. So that's one of the things that you need to be able to do time and time again, is protect units in various ways.
Cool. And then the setup for Basalt, this is one of those interesting kits where you'll see this time and time and again, where you got a unit that has an ability that's based on their max HP, and then another unit that's based on defense. With regards to TOA hard, what would be your rune recommendation for the 2, 4, 6 slots, in addition to anything else you want to add?
I personally, I'm running mine with Violent, and then Offset would be, for me, Guard, just because of the substats I'm able to generate with them. 2, 4, 6, I would do defense percentage, or crit damage, depending on the substats. And then the 6 slot's going to be accuracy every time. And you're using the defense percentage for 2 reasons. Number one, his third skill is going to scale off of it. That's where his damage is going to come from. And also because the TOA hard units, I mean, they hit like trucks, regardless of how many hit points you have. They're going to just chunk you. The more you pump that defense percentage, the less damage they're going to be able to inflict. So all of your hit point percentage and your accuracy and speed and all that, you're going to want to focus on that from substats, so that he's got a huge defense pool, and then his hit points and his ability to heal your team is all based on substats. So, I mean, like I have some crazy runes that I'm going to be putting on him after I 6-star, where it might be a slot 2 defense percentage, and then it's got a 21% hit point substat, stuff like that. So your primary on 2, 4, 6 is going to be defense, with the 6 slot being accuracy, because you need to have 85% or more accuracy on him for the provoke.
Okay. And you said, if I remember correctly, you did say initially with the 4 slot, you can go crit damage there, but wouldn't you want to go? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
You would either go defense percentage or crit damage. I know, like, Barian has crit damage on his. I don't know if he's tried him in hard mode yet or not. For dungeons and even for Arena and Guild Wars, the crit damage is the way you want to go, as long as you can generate some defense percentage subs on it. Because his third skill will hit like a truck. For TOA hard mode, I personally I err on the side of caution, because I hate beating my head against the wall on some levels. I would go defense percentage or HP percentage if you wanted to mix it up and go like a little bit of a hybrid version.
Right.
For those of you out there that are able to farm just god tier runes, where you might get that 6-star crit damage with HP and defense percentage subs, by all means, feel free to use it. It will not hurt you. It'll make him a monster.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, I mean, I could see the value, especially if you can, like you say, you get those godlike runes over there for the 4-slot, but it's considering that you're trying to utilize it to funnel all those TOA hard units to hit him, I would definitely feel that there's a lot more value in going defense over crit damage, unless you can get a pretty darn rune. But yeah, that is super cool. Is there any other? I know we had kind of a list of the ones to watch. The water mammoths and whatnot. I think there was another unit in our fire section that we wanted to go and hit up. Yeah, buddy.
Goon touched on this in his interview. One of our guild members on Asia named Mokies has a Clara that, we're sitting here talking about different hard levels, and he's able to clear 2A hard. He's done it the last, I think, 2 or 3 resets. We're like, Mokies, what did you use to clear this? What did you use to clear this? And he'll send us screenshots, and Clara's there. We're like, what the hell? You the only person that still uses her. What is going on? He's got her runed Despair Focus. He's got its speed, attack, and accuracy. And the key for her in TOA hard is going to be her ability to stun. So she already has the 3rd skill that has the built-in stun With the despair on top of that, that's 2 chances to stun on that third skill, and the ability to lock things down in COA hard is key. Outside of the boss levels, where obviously the boss is immune to stuns and stuff like that, there are levels where if you aren't able to lock down units, you are going to fail. That's the bottom line. You have these levels with all these crazy like counterattack monsters where if you hit them, they're going to hit you back. Taking away that ability to swing back, taking away that ability to get a turn is the key to those levels. And as much as I personally am not a fan of the Pariots, she apparently has found a niche use in being a stun bot in COA hard, and a lot of random guild members on both sides of global and Asia now are building her up and finding some success. So I guess I can't just keep feeding her away when I pull her.
Right. I was gonna say I hear a lot about units that provide. They're looking for units that provide the dots and the hit points on these units. TOA hard 50 plus are just so high, but it's kind of cool to see that you don't need to go all dots. You can utilize a unit like this and still get the job done. So pretty darn cool. Pretty darn cool.
Absolutely.
All right. And is there any other units you kind of want to hit up?
Off the top of my head, I mean, there's the units like the Grim Reapers. If you have the dark one, Thrain, he's amazing. If you don't have Thrain, you can use the water one, and really the key to there is the ability to generate those dots without doing damage up front. Like, with Beretta, with Cyrus, they're attacking the unit, they're dealing damage to it with the dots as sort of a kicker on top. There are levels where you have all these units where if you attack them, they'll hit you back. They'll hit you right back in the face and chunk you. Whereas Thrain and Hemos, the water one, their turn, they're not dealing damage with that skill. They're just putting the dots on, so they don't get counterattacked. And that's a huge sort of loophole to work with there.
Yeah. I was gonna say this has to be the one time that I could ever remember that a unit such as this that does not do damage is actually more beneficial.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's crazy.
Big shout out to Barian and Rengar and those guys that were sort of pioneering the playtesting on these, because without those guys, a lot of people would have not realized how valuable those were. Another unit that I am still in the works of messing with, because I haven't spent a whole lot of time with him, that's going to be a unit that I think has a lot of potential just based off of the theory crafting and the limited playtesting, is Dark Living Armor.
Ooh, buddy, I like it.
It's a unit that, a lot of people get because he is a 3-star. But if you look at his kit, he's a defense-based monster. He has 2 AoEs. One of them, has the defense break, which in TOA hard is huge because it literally doubles the amount of damage you're doing. And the other is an attack damage break. And anytime you can lower the amount of damage you're taking from something, it's huge in TOA hard. So this guy, I'm going to be putting defense on him, or I'm going to be putting despair on him, and probably either guard or focus, depending on which has better stats. But it's going to be defense percent, and then either accuracy or defense percent, depending on how much I can generate from substats. Again, you want 85% accuracy, and then just pump his defense through the roof. And he's going to be one of those guys that you'll throw on a team, and you'll whack something, stun 1, 2, 3 things, and then just either defense break or drop the amount of damage your team is taking. So he's bringing a lot of utility, and I'm pretty excited about using him once I get around to quit being lazy and pumping him up into the 6-star levels.
Nice. I know another person that's going to be super excited to utilize him, Schizophrenic Gamer. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he has the top YouTube channel right now with regards to some of his Warren subscribers, and
right on.
He was one of the people that really, really early on got this unit and 6-starred him, and everyone was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And then, of course, couple months later, he clears Trial of Ascension, and he does it with basically Zinc being in his team 24/7.
Yep, so I saw one of his videos way back in the day, and I'm telling you, there are people like that are ahead of their time. That people are like, "You're insane. That's garbage," and then they turn around and they prove that point exactly. Like, this guy can save teams over and over just based on his skill set.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Well, let's move on to the next 7. This is my favorite as well as most of my people that follow the channel. The epic fail section. Okay, so you need to give us
Oh
your
wow!
biggest, your biggest epic fail.
All
Story
right,
for the
little
subscribers.
little bit of backstory. If you go to my units and you look, like
All right,
right now,
let's get it.
I have 4 Chloes in various stages of
Ooh,
leveling, rune build, awakening, all that. I know that right there is disgusting in and of itself, but
man.
I'm that guy that's always had everyone else's Chloes as I was coming up. I mean, at one point, I think I had like 11 of them total,
Oh man, you didn't have to
and
finish.
one of my biggest epic fails was early on in the game. I was probably like level 20, didn't really know what I was doing, and my arena defense at the time was the Fire Werewolf, a Ramagos, Arena, and something else. And I was like, you know what? Rena's amazing. She's the bread and butter. I used 4 or 5 Chloes to evolve her,
Oh damn.
which that's a huge epic fail on my part.
Gosh.
The other one that's equally as disgusting, I've posted about it on Reddit a couple times. Jameer, at one point I had 2 of them.
Oh
I
no.
used one to 6-star the other.
Oh no, but I mean, in all reality, how much value? I mean, I don't, I don't even know how much value could be into having 2 Jameers. I mean, you're so limited on, Arena or Guild Wars or TOA that you gotta bring
Well,
a variety of things. I mean,
here's why it's an epic fail. I don't know that CompTOS necessarily wants it to work like this, but it does. For anybody out there that is lucky enough to have 2 Jameers, if you look at his 3rd skill, it says that it does not affect. It's not related to cool time effects. One Jameer's 3rd skill will reset the others.
no kidding.
So, I mean, Abyss was the one that really kind of kicked me in the teeth about this because he had to. If you have 2 Jameers and a Lucien, you now have 3 Lucians in one team. He really kind of beat me over the head about that for a long time after he saw that I did it. So it does have some value, and I mean, you can one run on violent, you can one run however you want to set it up. It does still have some limited use, but generally you don't want to take a 5-star unit, especially one that has so much value, and eat it to make another one get a skill set, a skill boost.
Gotcha.
So don't make that mistake.
Don't make that mistake. Everybody listening, don't make that mistake. All right. Let's see here. And then the next segment, let's talk about any shout outs you want to give out to the community out there.
Sure. I mean, like I said earlier, big shout out to all the top guilds on Asia, because you guys are the ones that are really forcing us to step up and think on our feet, really pushing us to get to that next level. So guilds like Zypher, Licious, Candy House, Guy Monster, all you guys are the reason that we're still having fun in this game, because you're making it challenging. It's not just a walk in the park for anybody. As far as individual players, I mean, obviously, guys like Barry and YDCB, they're hugely known. They're setting the bar. They're really helping people get to that next, get the information out there. You're right there with these videos. You're doing a ton for the community, whether you're getting a lot of response for it, a lot of appreciation or not. I want you to know that whether people are saying or not, I appreciate it, because I mean, I'm still learning stuff about this game. As much as I would like to think I know things, watching your videos, I'm still picking stuff up, and that's huge to me, because it's one of those things where if you're not learning, you're sort of falling by the wayside.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
on the Asia server, also guys to look out for. In our guild, Bryant 84 is Blue, Moki's. Those are sort of our mad scientists. They're the ones helping me theory craft. And I mean, guys like Blue, he was for a long time holding Guardian 2, Guardian 1, Guardian 3 with a lot of units that people weren't really considering good. I mean, he's running a Michelle on an offense just to make sure that he's got immunity buffs. Run a Chloe Michelle and have 2 turns of immunity while he's chewing through you with something. People like Evamon, I think she's the founder and the leader of Licious. She has one of the craziest units I've ever seen. She's got a Rocky on Violent with like 223 crit damage and 80%
Oh,
crit chance.
I've seen that one. Oh, it's gross.
It's disgusting. I was lucky enough to end up on her friends list, and I use it every time she has it. And, in dungeons, it's hitting for like 50,000 damage on a defense break, which is, I mean, anytime you generate those numbers, it's silly. So, I mean, people like that are able to farm those runes and have those units, it really is sort of fun and eye opening to see potential and things like that.
That's cool.
And then on the global side, Goon, Pug West, those guys that are keeping my baby alive over there after a bunch of us jumped ship and went to Asia to play on the other side of the pond. Those guys are doing a great job over there, and I appreciate all the hard work they're putting in.
Good deal. And then, do you have anybody that you wanted to kind of call out that you feel that has some knowledge that it can provide some insight to the game for up and coming episodes?
I mean, I know you've tried before, and I know a lot of people have said it. I'd love for you to get Cold Steel on here. Like I said, him and Jim Hartme are the guys that really sort of took me under their wing back in the day. So I think that James still has a lot of valuable information that he's sort of keeping close to the chest, so to speak.
I gotta steal it from him.
Yeah. Even Mon's another person. I mean, she does a lot of really cool stuff with how she sets up her guild and how she kind of has the ability to set up her runes and all that stuff. So I think she would be able to provide a lot of good insight. Is Blue is another person. I know Pug and Goon have both touched on it. The guy is a genius when it comes to setting up defenses and setting up like Guild War defenses. He's kind of the guy that we go to when we have people that have questions. We're like, look, talk to him. He'll get you tuned up. So he's got a lot of good insight as far as how to get the most out of your units on the defensive side of stuff, which is huge in this game because a lot of people don't focus enough on it.
Good deal.
So I would say those would be the people that I would check out.
Good deal. That's cool. Maybe what we can do for that last guest, we'll just try to get a variety of Guild Wars setups, just taking pictures or whatnot, similar to kind of what we did with Pug West, and just
Sure.
kind of have a video dedicated to just talking about a variety of Guild Wars setups and what people can kind of try out or whatnot that's been successful for you guys. So
absolutely, that would be awesome.
Sweet. All right then. Well, hey, thank you again so much for coming on board. I know this is like you got like 2 hours of sleep and you're able to provide this interview. I really do appreciate your time and energy put into this thing. It's crazy. I do appreciate everything, my man.
Nah, man, trust me, the pleasure was all mine. Like I said, you're doing huge things for this community. You're keeping this game alive, and anything I can do to help get knowledge out there, I'm more than happy to, because without people like you, this game wouldn't continue to be as successful as it has been.
Thank you. And again, guys, with regards to what we're providing, we can only show the door. You guys are the ones that have to walk through it. So if you want to do me the honor of being able to help both of us get this stuff out there, take the time to like the video, comment down to the video, share it to all the people here. I know that there's way more people that watch that watch Summoners War videos, but they're not, familiar with the Educate Dominate. Do everything and anything you can to get it out there so we can help the awesome Summoners War community. All right, guys. Well, that'll go ahead and conclude our episode of Educate and Dominate. It's your boy Childish and the Human Dynamo with ChildishPlays checking out. Take care. We will see you next time, guys. We're out.